I regained consciousness, I was on the shore of Thanatos. I'd regained just enough energy to seal myself in a regenerative shell. I remained that way for 1,000 years. No one had ever stayed in a shell for anywhere near that amount of time. Somehow my magical hibernation extended my life much beyond that of even the most powerful elven mages. The world out there is not mine. It only serves to remind me of my failure. Everyone I knew, everything I held dear is gone. I myself should have died long ago. Besides, I do not fancy being worshipped as a god. I'm well aware of the whole Panari tomfoolery, yes. When I emerged from my regenerative state, I traveled to the mainland. I suppose I thought I could somehow live among the world again. After I spoke with that Mannix fellow, I knew I was deluding myself. He did not know much, mostly some fanciful notions mixed with bits and pieces of history. As near as I was able to put together from speaking with him, Kryn Urden, the last surviving member of the council, started the Panari simply to maintain the wards, to periodically strengthen them, as it were. After I listened to his insane beliefs for what seemed like hours, I hinted that I'd actually known Nasruddin. He was already too far gone. He would not have believed any of my protests or denials of my godhood. He most likely would have interpreted the whole thing as some sort of test, I suppose. Yes. For some reason, about 100 years ago, they decided I was a god. They would come all the way down here to give me offerings, no matter how I tried to dissuade them. The last time they tried to come here, they were set upon by the Bogaroth. I happened upon the carnage too late to save them. Yes, it is an extremely powerful, extremely evil creature. Its lair is located somewhere around here. I wouldn't recommend it, though. I myself was unable to defeat it. I pity you, then. I received a taste of their hero worship from Mannix, and I can tell you I didn't like the taste of it one bit.
Hold on there. Do you two realize exactly what you're talking about here? Perhaps this is an interesting philosophical debate for you two, but we're talking about the foundations of the Panari religion here. I mean, if you're not dead, that means you're not his reincarnation. Where the bloody hell does that leave the rest of us? Are any of the prophecies true? Have all of us Panari just been running around half-cocked for the last 2,000 years?
Easy, young Virgil. I know how all of this must make you feel, and I apologize for making light of your beliefs. Unfortunately, I don't have the answers you're seeking.
I mean no disrespect, Nasruddin, but if you don't have any idea as to what's going on here, then you'll forgive me if I'm having a few doubts concerning the validity of my newfound religion.
Good, Virgil. If there is one thing in life that one must learn, it is to question everything. In the end, I'm sure you will have the answers that you seek. And whether or not this is all the fulfillment of a prophecy or just random chance, does it change the gravity of our situation? Would you do anything differently if you knew one way or the other?
No, I wouldn't. And I will see this until the end, regardless of the reasons behind it. Thank you, Nasruddin. At the very least, your wisdom warrants a religious movement, even if its followers tend to be a bit soft in the head.
I feel as if I've been waiting to hear those words since I awoke those many years ago. I had hoped it would never come to this. Why, Aranax? Why can't you see the folly of the path you've chosen? What are you going to do about this situation? I fear there is nothing I can do. I am old, tired. I do not believe I could stand up against my son now, even if I could find the heart to try. I do not know what life in the void is like, if it can be even called life. Who knows what sources of power could be found on the other side? I can think of only one possible strategy to defeat him now. You must retrieve the Vendigroth device that was meant to destroy him. And so it was, above ground. There are many catacombs and tunnels lying beneath the surface. Some of the members attempted to retrieve it to use against Aranax, but they never returned. We were forced to battle him without it, and you know the consequence of that. Extremely powerful mages have the ability to regenerate themselves whenever they are badly hurt, as I did. If one is powerful enough to hurt a master sorcerer gravely, the mage will retreat into his regenerative shell and emerge stronger than ever. The device is the only way known to disrupt the regenerating shield. Quite so. The technology of the device is designed to disrupt the field in such a way as to cause the shell to drain the life force instead of regenerating it. Quite gruesome to contemplate, actually. Further, it is said that one who is killed in this manner is forever separated from this world, with no chance of being returned magically or otherwise. You must search the ruins of Vendigroth in the wastes where the city once lay. I do not know exactly. Those days are long past, and with them a better part of my memory, I'm afraid. All I know is that at one point Vendigroth and its settlements spread out over that whole area now known as the Wastes. There was a bridge leading into the Vendigroth province. Here. I must conserve what little remains of my energy to banish you to the void once you have retrieved the device. The banishment spell is rarely performed by a single mage. Its power requirement is so great. Certainly. If we were to wait for Aranax to breach the wards, I fear the loss of life would be immeasurable. The irony of all this is not lost on myself. One might almost believe the prophecies to be true. It does appear that you are instrumental in halting this cataclysm. If only this were not necessary. I had hoped if Aranax ever returned, he would have realized the error of what he had done. Yes. It is obvious to me that he has committed himself to a path which can only end in his destruction. You must meet me at the site of the wards, the Ring of Broadguard, as they are now known. The barrier between the worlds is thin enough there for me to be able to send you across by myself. I would suggest that you bring as much help as you can recruit, as it will be no easy task to defeat Aranax. What is it that is troubling your thoughts? Whose tale of woe would you like to have recounted? Gorgoth's is a simple tale, though disturbingly common in the Age of Legends. He was a mindless beast with an insatiable appetite. He had a liking for halflings, if I recall correctly. Bringing him low took quite a fierce battle, though a mindless one. He could think of nothing to do with him, so he banished him to the void to keep him from wreaking any more havoc. Whose tale of woe would you like to have recounted? Kurgan was a member of the council, the only human one, in fact. He was a dabbler, he was, always experimenting and searching for new magics. His discovery of the necromantic arts was the beginning of the end for him. The council took a dim view of magics that had the ability to manipulate the very life force of a being, and we bade him to stop any further inquiries in that area. He totally disregarded our warnings and continued his ghastly experiments. Aranax was assigned to investigate, and turned up the rather disturbing details. Kurgan had been stealing corpses and experimenting with their life forces. What was infinitely more disturbing to me, though, was the vehemence of Aranax's drive to have Kurgan banished rather than simply exiled. Our mission was to impartially judge, to rule for the common good, regardless of our personal feelings. Aranax did not even attempt to hide his hatred of Kurgan. Worse, I always suspected that Aranax's hate was based more on the fact that Kurgan was a human on the Elven Council than on the facts of the case. I believe our decision was the correct one. It is just that there is a proper way to conduct oneself, and Aranax was neither unbiased nor objective. I began to have serious misgivings about his membership on the council after this. The whole Vendigroth situation exploded shortly afterwards, before I could come to a decision about Aronnax's role on the council. Kurgan was pulling their spirits back from the other side to attempt to communicate with them, experimenting in different ways to perfect his resurrection magic, and worst of all, casting their life force out of the bodies once again. Whose tale of woe would you like to have recounted? The Bane of Kree. Bringing him to justice was what established my reputation as a warrior, which eventually led to legends surrounding me which I had no control over. The Bane was a nomad warrior who was able to gather together nearly all the ancient nomadic tribes and create a vicious army out of them. I became involved when he slaughtered the army of Kree. His legendary courage failed him. When faced with certain defeat, he lost his mind and fled back to Kree. He had his army slaughter every man, woman, and child in his desperation. I do not know what he hoped to accomplish by this. When I caught up with him, I was overcome by a bit of the madman myself. I banished him single-handedly in my fury, which is not an easy thing to do, even then. Whose tale of woe would you like to have recounted? Krakatoa was a conniving coward who found a way to turn himself into a twisted monster, half man and half dragon. In this form, he terrorized cities and villages, killing their inhabitants and burning them to the ground. After a colossal battle and his defeat at the hands of the council, he cried and begged us not to banish him. Pathetic. What is it that is troubling your thoughts? When Mannix disappeared, I knew that something of that nature must have transpired. I decided it was no longer my place to play at God. Who am I to decide who is right? When I took on that role before, well, you have already heard what happened then.
Bravo! Jolly good strike, my good man!